A genre is a category for films that is based on similarities between them. For example, the choice of mise-en-scene, sound and editing. Action is one example of a film genre, focusing on intense, fast-paced scenes. Audiences, specifically male teens and young adults, will expect high-risk scenarios and the use of weapons or physical fighting, emphasising the themes of danger and violence. The films The Dark Knight and Sherlock Holmes both conform to these typical action genre conventions. The Dark Knight starts in the middle of the action, with the window of a building being shattered by two men in masks. This is also apparent in Sherlock Holmes, as we see Sherlock running down the street. This sets up the themes of violence and danger at the very beginning of both films, creating intense and exciting scenarios where the audience do not know what will happen next. In The Dark Knight, the pleonastic, diegetic sound of the window smashing also helps to emphasise this, and gives it a sense of realism, with the loud volume making the audience feel as if they are close to it. There is also non-diegetic music, which is fast-paced, creating tension and intensity, and giving the audience more feelings of danger and excitement. The intensity of the music is mirrored with the fast-paced editing, creating a sense of uneasiness and implying danger. It also gives the audience the feeling of adrenaline, as the speed suggests that there is a time limit to what they are doing. There is then a shot of two men ziplining over the road to another building. The aerial view highlights how high up they are and emphasises the high stakes and danger of what they are doing, as well as creating excitement for the audience. This is also shown as they are all wearing masks, implying that nobody can know who they are, and creating a sense of the unknown in the film. Similarly, in Sherlock Holmes, there is also a sense of the unknown, but this time it is created through the lack of lighting. The darkness emphasises the danger that all the characters are in, as you can get away with more in the dark with nobody else around. This will also create tension for the audience. There is a blue-green coloured tint, which can be associated with sadness, anxiety or illness, making the audience feel as if something bad is going to happen. The only thing fully lit up is his face, emphasising his features to show the audience that he's an important character, and highlighting how exhausted he is, increasing tension for the audience. The fast-paced editing and non-diegetic music are like The Dark Knight, as it helps to increase the intensity and excitement of the film. An aerial shot is used of the woman lying down, creating fear and confusion for the audience. She wears a white dress, suggesting purity and innocence, making the audience feel like she is a victim. Additionally, both films show the use of guns and other fighting, which is typical of the action genre, as it creates excitement for the audience and reinforces the themes of violence and danger. This shows how both films conform to the action genre expectations. However, in Sherlock Holmes, there is one scene that subverts the audience's expectations. When he is hiding behind the wall, we see a slow-motion sequence of him fighting a guard, with a voiceover of his reasoning for each move. This slows down the scene, which would not necessarily be expected in an action film. However, this also helps to highlight his thought processes and show his higher intelligence than most action heroes, which could make the plot and characters more interesting. One of the main differences between the two films is that in Sherlock Holmes, the setting is less modern. At the beginning of the film, there are some close-ups of the cobblestone road, and then a tracking shot of a horse and cart. This shows from the start that we are in an older period, whereas in The Dark Knight, the aerial shot above the road highlights all the busy people and cars in the streets. This implies that we are in a modern setting, which could feel more relatable for the target audience. This also emphasises the higher risk for the villains in The Dark Knight, as there are more people that can see them, leaving more room for error and justifying their use of masks. Another difference is that in Sherlock Holmes, we are positioned on the side of the heroes from the beginning. We see a lot more shots of Sherlock, as well as close-ups of his face. We also see some of the shots inside from his point of view, as he works out his plan in the open hall. This creates a connection between him and the audience, emphasising him as the hero, and meaning we are on his side. In contrast, in The Dark Knight, we do not see the hero yet, and are only focused on the villains who are robbing a bank. This means we do not know who is on the good side, so we cannot root for them. However, it could also show how powerful the Joker is, and make the audience want the good side to win even more. Action films also tend to make use of Barth's action and enigma codes. In both The Dark Knight and Sherlock Holmes, there are shots where you can see people holding guns, creating an action code as it implies that somebody will be shot at or possibly killed. Weapons are also typically expected in action, keeping up with the themes of violence and high stakes, as there will also be a fear of death. As well as this action code, Barth's enigma codes are created. In The Dark Knight, the men wear masks, and in Sherlock Holmes there are a lot of dark scenes. This creates the theme of the unknown and makes the audience want to know more. Another example of a film genre is a romantic comedy, or rom-com for short. In contrast to the fast-paced, violent sequences in action films, Rom-coms use slower, steadier shots and upbeat music to focus on the thoughts and feelings of two people who are falling in love. There is often medium close-ups or close-ups to connect with a character and show their emotions. The target audience is focused on teenage and young adult girls or couples who want to watch a predictable film together and relate to some of the scenarios presented in the films. The start of the rom-com, Man Up, doesn't go straight into the action as in the other two films. Instead, it uses a tracking long shot through the hotel at eye level. This can make the audience feel as if they're there as well, walking through the hotel. In comparison to the fast-paced, movement-fueled scenes in the action films to make us feel on edge, the shots in Man Up are steady and slower paced. The credits also show up in yellow at the bottom of the screen throughout the action, which could represent an upbeat feeling. In contrast, the action films don't have the credits during the action, but instead have it at the start of the film. This could be to let the audience completely focus on the action that is happening, therefore showing how the rom-com film is slower and more relaxed. In the rom-com, there is also upbeat music playing. The music could first seem non-diegetic, but the tracking shot eventually takes us into a party, which shows that it's diegetic. There are also diegetic sounds of people talking and shouting, again giving the audience an immersive feeling. This immersive feeling is also present in the action films, but instead they give the audience the feeling of danger and adrenaline, whereas in the rom-com we get a sense of fun and excitement. The bright and colourful lighting at the party could represent happiness and joy, whereas in Sherlock Holmes the sequence is made up of dark and muted colours, meaning more tension and fear is created for the audience in action films than rom-coms. In the next part of the scene, we follow a couple making out as they go in the lift to the rooms, implying to the audience that we are now in a more secluded part of the setting. This also sets up the themes of love and romance at the party, and in the film as a whole, further emphasising the loneliness of the main character when we see her alone in her room. We first meet Nancy during a medium close-up of her face, as she is doing her makeup and talking to herself. This shows that she is the main character, as she is the first person we see the face of close-up for an extended period, as well as creating a stronger connection between herself and the audience. Her room is very bright, meaning that we can see all of her face, which implies that she is honest and not hiding anything from us. The fact that she is talking to herself also shows that this is her personal space and time that we are looking into, creating an even deeper connection with the audience and meaning we see more of her thoughts and feelings than the other characters, which is typical of a rom-com. We also get some elements of comedy in the scene, as we then cut to her wearing jogging bottoms and a hoodie while watching TV, which shows that she is being casual and has no intention to go to the clearly fun and entertaining party downstairs. The clothes are all muted colours, which could represent how she is bored or annoyed. We also see the TV through a point of view shot, creating a stronger connection between the audience and Nancy. More comedy situations are created when the serviceman Andrew is talking to her sister Elaine. We get a medium close-up of his annoyed facial expression when Nancy leans on his shoulder, emphasising the unusual and uncomfortable position that he's being put in. He also follows Elaine's orders when he gives Nancy her dress, despite her protests. These elements help to show the sense of comedy that is being made in the film. In contrast to action films, the rom-com genre uses slower pacing and comedic components to create funny and romantic scenes. Compared to action, the rom-com genre tends to make use less of Barth's action codes, but does incorporate enigma codes, such as if Nancy will go to the party, or if she will even get a date with somebody. Rom-coms may also include more cultural codes. For example, at the beginning of the film, the audience will need to have at least some ideas around parties and relationships. As these things are typical for people in the target audience to do, they may not relate as much to Nancy, or feel bad for her and hope that she will give in and go to the party. In conclusion, all of these contrasting conventions can show how elements, such as cinematography, sound and lighting, can influence the way that audiences respond to different genres. The fast pace in the action films creates more intense and adrenaline-central scenes, whereas the slow pace adds more romance or comedy-focused scenarios into the rom-com.